Welcome to Body at the Table, a new series from Hyperion where we get into the conversations that busy professionals actually need to have about their health, their body, and their performance. Not the gym bro stuff, not the extreme stuff, the real stuff. What actually works when you've got a business to run, a family to show up for, and zero patience for things that just don't deliver. My guest today is Ryan Misky, co-founder of Lifestyle Transformations, a coaching company built specifically for busy professionals who want to get their body, their energy, and their discipline to match the life that they're already leading. Ryan has helped over 1,000 clients do exactly that, and he does it without the calorie counting obsession or the restrictive diets that makes most programs just unsustainable. Ryan, welcome to the table. Tell us who you are and how this whole thing started.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Toby. It's an honor to be here and kind of share my specialty on your podcast here. So I run a company called Lifestyle Transformations. I like to coin myself as an anti-diet coach. Essentially, what we help do is get busy men sustainable habits in their life using exercise, nutrition, and the identity behind it to help optimize every aspect of their life, from their families to their careers to just their daily growth as a man. And we do that using fitness and nutrition as the glue to help really elevate their life.
Yeah, interesting that, the anti-diet approach, the word diet has been so misinterpreted and used ineffectively, right? Diet is simply how we fuel ourselves. And so using the word diet brings the connotation of some whacked, pitch that they've heard in the past on ways to rapidly change their weight, but that's not the case. Here's what I do find fascinating, though, about your client base. These aren't people who lack discipline. They're executives, they're entrepreneurs, they're people who run companies. So what's actually going on when someone that capable is still struggling to get their health dialed in?
Yeah, what we're seeing is high performing men and women focus primarily on their business, their career, and providing for their family. But in the process, with this all or nothing mindset, they've allowed themselves to neglect their own health and they've put their own needs on the back burner. What happens is, if you do this long enough, you get to a point where your bad health is going to negatively affect different aspects of your life. And oftentimes it takes one of these high performers to let this go too long before it starts leaking into their family and their career. So what we've tried to do is put a Band-Aid on that and find the habits that are causing this and fix that up before it really becomes an issue.
Yeah, as someone, I had two kids, and I would say the most challenging period for me was probably my late 30s to mid 40s, where you're so busy with activities, and I was still playing hockey and football and basketball and different things, and it just kind of crept up on me that, I thought, well, I'm playing all these sports, I'm just going to stay the way I've always stayed, right? But then you're also running through McDonald's and doing stuff you shouldn't do because you're in such a rush with the kids and stuff. And so it did creep up on me too. I had to make it a focus in my late 40s to get myself back on track. And like it wasn't a motivational issue. It was just, oh, life is so freaking busy, man. So most people come to you like I would have, already motivated. They've tried different things. My wife and I both tried a couple diets. We went to the gym, got trainers, all of those things. What does that trial and error history usually look like, and where does it typically break down for people like it did for us?
Yeah, I think nowadays our culture has been so quick to jump to fad diets like keto and fasting because it's a quick fix. But these generic plans that they're jumping on don't really take into account their lifestyle, their schedule, and their stress levels. And what happens is they try to take these plans, put it into their life. It's based off restriction. So, it works for a period of time, but when life gets real, they fall off, they burn out, and they're back into the same place that they started. And now they even have a negative connotation with even trying to get in shape. And they're just like, you know what? I don't have time for this. And they go back to exactly what they were doing.
Well, there's just so much information today available to people on their phone, right? So it's like, oh, do I need peptides? Oh, should I be walking 20,000 steps a day? Oh, vitamin D, and what am I lacking? And so, man, to navigate that, if you don't have someone who can provide some guidance, who's worked in the field and seen people make improvements and see what sticks and what actually is sustainable, and that's where systems come in, right? So you talk about building systems rather than relying on just motivation. What does that actually mean in practice, and or for someone who's never thought about their health that way in the past?
Yeah. And you hit it on the head, right? There's enough information out there. There's always been information. We've always had Google, YouTube. Nowadays, it's Instagram and Chat GPT. People don't need more information. They need accountability. It's how to take this information and place it into your life when motivation actually fails. A lot of people rely on motivation as the driving force, but essentially you need a solid system in your life that's going to stand the test of time when things get crazy, a structure that you can follow, and is the standard essentially to what you live by. So even when life does get crazy, you have something that you can always rely back onto. It's going to make the goal around healthy habits automatic instead of kind of emotional. You're not just doing it for an ends and means. This is the new standard, and you understand why it's the new standard as well. It's not just a fad diet like cut out carbs. Well, why do I have to cut out carbs? Carbs aren't the enemy. They never were the enemy. It was your habits in the background, or fasting, for example. Hey, I'm just going to not eat until 12. Well, breakfast never was the issue. It's the habits in your lifestyle that are the problem, right?
Yeah. For me, it was also making things habits, right? Going from, you know, going to the gym because I got to go to the gym, to, oh my God, I missed the gym. Like, I missed my workout. I feel horrible. I got to get to the gym. Like, I want to get to the gym now. Right. So, which still, you can get away from it for a while and you start to feel again like you're dragging your butt in there. But when you're in that regular rhythm, you start to crave it. It's part of what drives you. One of the things that's always been most challenging for me is, like, I love my cheeseburgers, and what is it, Five Guys, that has the French fries cooked in peanut oil and stuff like that, right? So it's hard. Nutrition is the thing that seems to trip everyone up. There's so much noise. Keto, like you mentioned, intermittent fasting, high protein, plant-based. How do you cut through all of that when a new client walks in and they might have a lot of preconceived ideas and even stuff that it's worked for them? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's funny because you can still have the cheeseburgers. The cheeseburger isn't the issue; it's the balance, right? One of the things we see with diets is they're not sustainable. They work temporarily. They're just a means to an end. But I think what we need to start doing is getting people to focus on the fundamentals. Number one, I can tell you right now, is protein. Protein should be the base of everyone's diet because it is the building blocks of everything that happens in your body. Amino acids, specifically what protein gets broken down to, it helps you from your skin, your nails, your eye, to the muscle recovery, your bones, right down to your immune system where your cells are made out of protein. So if we teach a person, hey, protein is what you need. Now, we know that veggies are very important too, but why? Because it's for digestion. It helps us break down those proteins, the fiber. So when you teach somebody these principles and they understand why they're eating the things they're eating and saying, hey, you can still have the cheeseburger. That's not a problem. We need balance, but let's hit the fundamental first with portion control, consistency, meal structure. I feel that nutrition should support your life, not consume your life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I couldn't help when you were talking about, protein and vegetables, the Jim Bro, piece of plain chicken breast with steamed broccoli on the side. And, that's what people think they have to go to and just stick to, right? And I definitely can't. I don't know if there are some people that, well, obviously there's some people that can, but that is really holding yourself to account and being extremely strict, right?
That's another form of a diet where it's like, we call it the bodybuilder diet, where it's chicken and rice and broccoli for 6 meals a day. You know what I mean? And it's not sustainable, but there's a reason why those guys do it, because a plain chicken breast is just pure protein, where it's like, if we look at a hierarchy chart, there's definitely certain cuts of meat that are better than others. There's a little fattier that you go down the list. So if you're looking for a lean protein that's going to be pure protein with no fat, chicken breast is going to be your best option, right? But you don't need to eat like that. You can have your sauces, you can have your marinated meats, you can have a really tasty meal. But again, it's about portion control and balance. And if the balance is on the wrong side of the spectrum, you're going to see negative effects.
Well, it's easy to, always come back to chicken because it's such a good protein source. But to your point, it's not the most nutrient dense. A ribeye steak is going to give you way more nutrient than a piece of chicken will. So if you want the balance, you got to figure out kind of what works for you and introduce that to make it successful and sustainable. The no calorie counting piece is interesting because that's almost the opposite of what people expect from a program. How do you get results without that level of tracking?
Listen, there's no doubt that calorie counting is beneficial. It teaches you the nutritional content of a food, but at best, it's an estimate, right? There's a lot of things it can't take into account. So I think it's, again, a means to an end. It's no different than a diet, because you're not going to calorie count and weigh for your food for the rest of your life. You can't do it at restaurants. So it's only as good as the person who's doing it, right? So what if we taught you a structure where you didn't have to count calories, where we taught you to hit that target of protein, which calorie counting does help you do. It does lets you know, hey, have I hit my protein today? Have I stayed in a calorie deficit to help me lose the body fat on my body? Does it let me know? Yeah, for sure. It teaches you that, but it doesn't teach you structure. And that's the problem with calorie counting. Imagine you have 3 buckets, right? You have protein, carbs, and fats. People get in this mindset where, well, as long as I stay within the buckets, I can eat whatever I want. And that in itself is its own thing, right? Where people start putting Pop-Tarts and Eggos and donuts in there just to hit your carbs, and they're not looking at the nutritional value, the micronutrients of the food. They're just looking at the macronutrients. So I think that what we need is simplicity. Okay, for the businessman who works a hard level job, you don't have time to weigh your food and count calories. So we have to teach you a structure to hit your protein, hit your dietary fiber, stay within a calorie range that's going to be achieving your goals, whether it's building muscle or losing fat, and show you how you can always come back again to this system, to this structure that's going to help you see those results, no matter where you are in your life or season, or how crazy things are.
Yeah, one thing, I have gone through periods in the past where, I looked at my macros, my micros, all the calories in and out, all that stuff. Now I just try to focus on protein because if I don't watch my protein, it's so easy to think you ate enough protein in that day. And then if you put it into AI or something, all of a sudden it was like, oh geez, that was only 120 grams of protein. Like I'm not even hungry anymore. And my goal for myself is 170 to 200 grams of protein a day, right? So if I don't track it, it's very likely some days I'm over that, or most times I'm way under what I thought I ate for protein. So that's the only thing I really track right now. It'll tell me the calories and stuff, but I'm not really tracking that. I just want to know if I got my protein goal.
Yeah, and I think you got to be careful that, like, you want flexibility, not perfection, right? You're going to have time where you have vacation, family meals, client dinners. So I think that, one bad meal or not hitting your protein one day is not the end of the world. It's not like you're going to lose a bunch of muscle because you didn't hit your protein one day, but it teaches people, like, again, like I said, a standard where you're like, okay, maybe I didn't hit where I'm was supposed to hit today. And again, that's going to affect your energy levels, maybe, your mind clarity, your emotions, even if you're not hitting these basic nutritional values that you should be hitting. And when we go back to your first question about where people are falling short, is they've learned to function on a lower level capacity than they need to. There's this world, this beautiful world of opportunity and optimization for a person to step to. And when you start to actually show them their actual true potential that they could be living in, you no longer need discipline. It's about devotion, devoted to that. There's a version of me that I'm stepping into that, like, wow, if I eat like this, I have more energy and I feel great. Like, that's the version of you we're trying to get to. So if you show them the value in that, I think adherence becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, and for my wife and I too, we've just realized how important, we're in our 50s, right? So we realize how important metabolism is. Never really thought about it. I mean, especially when I was playing hockey and football and everything, my metabolism was jacked most of the time. But as life started to slow down and I got really busy in business and not wasn't taking the kids out to events as much, we realized that we did slow down a little bit. And that's natural too. Like the way humans are built is they think as we get into our 40s and 50s, we slow down and we start to seek comforts. We get in the lazy boy, we watch TV. People get slower. And so we lived in Mexico for 6 months in 24, 25, and didn't have our car with us, so we walked everywhere. We were at like 15,000 steps a day,
Yeah.
and we were eating ways that we thought, like, not that we were like, but just tacos all the time, right? Street food, lots of meat, some cheese, some little taco shells, so not tons of carbs or anything like that. But if we were eating that here in Vancouver, especially in the winter when it's raining and we're not going outside and walking as much, we would have packed on a couple pounds. We were there 6 months. We didn't put on a pound because we were just so active, and we'd walk to the gym. We'd walk to go get the tacos. We'd walk to go get a coffee. Like everything was walking. And so we've tried to maintain that coming back. We live in White Rock now, but we're in a condo where we can walk to our grocery store, but we're at the top of the hill. We walk up and down the hill to the pier and the beach all the time, and we're trying to maintain, difficult in the winter, but we're trying to maintain at least an average of 10,000 steps a day, just so we keep our metabolism going, so we don't feel that guilty if we want that brownie on the weekend or something, right? And we don't want to live a restrictive life. So it is easier if we all move to Mexico, I can tell you that.
Absolutely. I think, and it could be for some people harder depending on what your lifestyle is like as well. But, to combat that point, that's the first thing I'll check a client on when they start using age and metabolism as an excuse as to why they might not be where they want to be. And we got to reframe that mindset and remind them that it really is your habits that is going, because you can be in great shape at 50, 60, and possibly even 70, right? And that's, I think, the ideal goal for everybody, is that we want to go into our late years of our life feeling good about where we're at, right? Not work hard our whole life and then get to the years where we can enjoy it and then start having health issues. So I think that, yeah, our body changes as we age, and it might be what we could do when we were younger. Yeah, that's changed, but you have to love your body at all stages of life, and what it can do now versus what it could do before is completely different. So you got to adapt and treat it accordingly.
Yeah, and absolutely, the sooner you start on a healthy path, the better off and the easier it's going to be. So, but put that aside, the best day to start is today. No matter where you are, it doesn't matter if you're 60, it doesn't matter if you're 70. If you start lifting, there's cognitive benefits, there's physical benefits, there's lowering of all-cause death benefits to just starting to lift and get active. And once you start doing that, you naturally start being more selective in your diet because you put the effort in. So now you're more conscious of what you're eating, not restricting yourself, but you're just more conscious. Instead of having two brownies, maybe I'll just eat half a brownie, right?
Yeah.
So everything is driven off of that. Just get started today. Don't delay today, because if you start today, it's easier than starting tomorrow, and it's easier than starting next week. So let's get going.
The,
Um,
the number one excuse I hear when getting on calls with professionals is I don't have time, or I'm just too busy. And it's like, listen, you're never going to have time and you're never not going to be busy. So you gotta start, like, and hey, if down the road you have more time and you get less busy, great. That's just going to make it easier. But you need to learn how to implement healthier habits now, because when things do get crazy, it's just going to be harder to strategize around that, right? So do it now while life is crazy, and if things get a little bit slower and easier on you, great. That just makes it easier, right?
And I mean, people instinctively know this. They just block it in their mind with their own rationale, right? You don't put off maintenance on your car because you don't have time. You don't put off maintenance on your house, which is a key asset in your life, just because you don't have time. You buy out the time. You find time to get those things done. Your body is exponentially more valuable to you than your house or your car. So you can't use the excuse you don't have time. You've got to find the time. It'll create more time for you in the future. It may not in the first 3 months, but 6 months down the road, you're going to have more energy. You're going to feel like you need to sleep less. You're going to have deeper and better sleep. Like, all of those things are related. So if you truly want more time, take care of your body.
Yeah, that's such a great analogy. With the car, that little light on your dashboard tells you when something's wrong and you better fix it, right? But oftentimes with our body, we don't get those signals until it's a little bit too late and the problem has already arisen. So that's what usually motivates a person to change, is the doctor tells them, hey, you got something going on here. You might need to start actually exercising and eating right. We don't want it to get to that level. Start now before the doctor tells you that you have to start.
Yeah, and I've seen this play out in business as well. Like, I was fortunate enough to work with a client in raising capital for an acquisition that he did. And he's grown his business in the last 5 6 years from 3 to 5 million in revenue to 400 million in revenue in just 5 6 years. And this is a guy that will buy out time to take care of his body. He's acquired, I think, 5 or 6 companies, flying all over the place. He's got major issues in some of the companies he's acquired that he's got to fix, but he also takes out time. He brought me to Kansas a couple of years ago, and we went and did a breath work session for 3 days with Max Strom. It's like, this guy he's doing whatever he needs to do, whether it's breath work, whether it's cold baths, ice baths, whether it's heat, whether it's getting up at 3 and doing a workout. Now, like, we're talking about a unique individual. I'm not saying everybody needs to get up at 3 a.m. and work out and fly to Kansas and go do breath work, but he focuses on his body first, and from that he's able to do and accomplish all the things that he's done. And he will tell people over and over and over, if I didn't take care of myself, I would be a crying puddle in the corner of my bedroom and wouldn't have any of the
Yeah,
opportunities that I've managed to close and transact, right?
that's the thing, right? It's not to say that you're not able to make millions of dollars as a CEO without an ounce of healthy eating or exercise, right? Because we see guys who do it, but there is no doubt the ones who are exercising, who are eating right, and functioning at a high level in their business, there's a different energy about them. You sense it. The people around them sense it. And there's no issues in other aspects of their life, because you can be full board with your career and not taking care of your body, and then you start to see it leak into your family, you start to leak it into your social life or whatever it is, and then it becomes a problem. But the guys who use fitness and nutrition as the glue to keep them functioning at a high level is what you sense that energy about them, and they look at it full spectrum, and they take care of every aspect of your life, and they can coexist. A lot of people think that healthy lifestyle and work need to conflict, but it's about strategizing and taking a system, placing it into your life, building the habits around it, and now it's just part of your life.
And 6 months or 12 months from now, you're gonna say, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. I honestly believe that for people, that when they make a major change like that, where they start taking care of their bodies, and to the point too that you made, like, yeah, obviously there's a lot of successful people that don't take care of themselves, but what did they leave on the table that they could have potentially done that would have them 10x their, where they're at today? And maybe people don't need to, and okay, that's cool too, but you could do a lot of good in the world with that money too, and that's also what this person does: contributes to the community, contributes to different things to help people lead better lives. But the other side of it is what's your exit plan? Like, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want eventually to slow down working in the business, and you and your wife and your family travel and see things more often than you do now? Do you want to exit and put your feet up, or walk the golf course in Hawaii, or all of those things? You're going to increase your or decrease all cause mortality by take caring of your body, and there's statistical data over and over and over on that. So you're going to live a longer life where you can enjoy the fruits of all that hard work you put in for years. But there's another aspect that you did talk about already a little bit, but I want to get into a little more, and that's the social side of eating. What about the social side? Client dinners. I know client drinks, client dinners is something that I always worry about going on the road, or events I got to attend. Travel, family meals. That's where a lot of programs start to fall apart for people. How do you build something that actually survives the busy real life of executives?
Yeah, I think it's again, it goes down to building a structure of when even you are in a restaurant, making healthy options. We have a lot of clients on our program where business client meetings, alcohol isn't something they're ready to remove. There's no doubt that, like, if you do remove alcohol, your health is going to improve. But when someone starts on, it's just right now, it's not an option. It's part of their life, and that's completely okay. We always look at where a client's at and slowly build off from there. So we look at where we can make improvements. But if it's happening multiple times throughout the week, on a Monday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, and then again, they're a little bit heavier on the weekend, we got to look at where we can make improvements. It's not like an all or nothing. That's what diets do, right? That diets is about restriction. Healthy lifestyle is about balance. So if we can look at what the spectrum of your week looks like and say, hey, here's a win where I could see, are you willing to work with me on that? And if a person's like, yeah, I can do that, then we know that we can confidently commit to that. But if they're like, I'll try, man, then I'll say, hey, listen, right now, if you're not confident that you can commit to it, don't even say it, because the worst thing that we can say is I'll try, you not do it, and then fail, right? Because then that's gonna lower the how you feel about it and your optimism about it. So what we need to do is move the goalpost so close that you can't miss. So it's like if you're drinking 4 or 5 times a week, be like, can we cut it down to like 3, 4 times a week? Is that something you can do? And usually a person will be like, yeah. And once you start showing someone the value of a healthy lifestyle, and they start seeing the energy, the mood, the stress levels come down, the sleep getting better, the strength, the stamina, everything coming back, they're like, hey, I kind of want to do more of this. This kind of feels better than what I was doing before. And it naturally shifts out.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, again, it comes down to the whole get busy, start thinking about your body, start thinking about the decisions you're making, wanting to feel better. And when you do that, it's just, what things are useless in my life that I don't need? And if I cut that out, what would be the impact to me? Like, do I really need that scotch every night before I go to bed? And is it really helping my sleep, or is it actually, negatively impacting my sleep? I know what the studies say, but I feel like I fall asleep faster if I have that scotch, right? But it's funny when you start diving into it, like, all alcohol is a poison. And then I'd still have a drink now and then, don't get me wrong, but all alcohol is a poison and it's useless calories. There's no protein in it. There's nothing redeeming in alcohol for you, right? So, and again, I'm not anti-alcohol. I have a small bar, and I'll go out for drinks with guys, or with people, executives, women too, on the road, or when I'm at home. If I go to visit a client, I'm not going to say no to a scotch or a beer at the bar, that kind of thing, right? But um, I just, when I started cutting it out at home and during the week, and it's like, I didn't miss it. It was no big deal, right? It tastes good, but it's not that big a deal. So, and nobody was forcing me to or telling me I had to. I just was self-selecting naturally that I want to feel better. And I think that if I reduce the amount I'm doing on it, and over time, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger gaps of when I didn't drink. And it was like, I don't even notice it now. If you took my coffee away, it probably have more impact
Yeah,
on me than
coffee's a
taking my alcohol.
non-negotiable for a lot of people. Coffee's like, yeah, you can take my scotch away, but you're not taking my coffee away. I want my latte in the morning. I'm like, hey, like if that's where the line is, let's work around it. But even scotch, I remember having a client come on the program and they're saying, one thing I'm not going to give up. I have a scotch every single night after work. I'm not willing to give this up. And I was like, okay, then we don't give it up. Let's add more good to your week versus looking at restriction. What again, diets do is what can we take away from your week and tell you's bad? Don't do this versus, hey, what can we do that's to add more good to it? So what can we do to add more protein, more veggies? Where can we look at those wins? And slowly, sneakily, as a coach, we start to strip some of those bad habits away when the person is ready. And that person who was so hard pressed on having a scotch every night, sure enough, same thing like you. Slowly they started reducing it, eventually to the point where they stopped drinking completely. And that's such a beautiful thing. Is when I see that, I was like, hey, yeah, if this is what you're doing, we put it all on the paper. We just take the data and say, okay, well, here's everything you're doing. Where can we make some room here, right? Like, I think a big question people have is, well, how many times do I need to work out? Like, like what's realistic, and should I be working out 5-6 days a week? Because I can't commit to that. It's like, well, what are you doing right now? And let's just build off that, because if you're not working out at all, 1 to 2 times a week is a 200% increase from what you were doing last week. Now, ideally, we would like to get you to 3, maybe 4 times a week, mixing in some good steps in the week as well. Combine that with, a healthier diet. Now we're starting to see some huge changes in your life. But I think the biggest thing we can say is look at where you're at and build slow consistency, because that's what's going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, that's what I always say too, and I call it just baby steps, right? High performers want to go from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour, tomorrow, and that's not sustainable. You're going to burn out. Make some small changes. Let's take some small steps. And you know what? 6 months from now, you will have gone, those steps will now be yards that you've moved, but you started with the baby steps, and you made it something you could actually accomplish realistically and keep within your calendar. Let's talk. We've already covered it a bit, but let's talk a little bit more on the training side. For a busy professional who only has 45 minutes 3 to 4 times a week, what's the honest truth about what they can actually produce from that 45 minutes, that number of times in a week?
If done properly, it's enough to completely change your body and energy levels. Most people waste time instead of training with intention and progression, right? But the key factor is consistency. It's going to beat a marathon workout every single time.
Yeah, and the recovery is just as important, especially if you're, a more mature executive, right? You need the recovery time. I would say 3 to 4 times a week isn't, for at 45 minutes is kind of optimal. That's not something
Yeah,
that's, sloughing off or not getting to where you want to be. I think if you're in your 40s or 50s and you're pushing the gym 5, 6 days a week, you could burn out. You could be actually delaying muscle growth and you're not having enough recovery time, right? So, and then the fuel is also a part of that, but you need the proper recovery time. I'm going through a deload phase right now, which is really hard for me. When I'm in the gym, I just want to push as hard as possible and get through my workout and feel awesome after. It's so hard to do more sets, lighter sets, more rest between sets. But my body was just telling me it was time to just take it easy for a bit and let me recover, because I'm also going through a little bit of a cut right now, so my calories are down a bit, and that's where I'm super conscious of my protein right now, because I don't want the protein to fall, because again, as a man in his mid 50s, if I don't have enough protein and I'm dropping weight, it's really easy to lose muscle and it's really hard to replace that muscle, right? So
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You hit it on the head, right? Yeah, and some of the best workouts I've ever gotten are when I am crunched for time and I don't have time to mess around or look at my phone or have a conversation in between with someone. It's I have to get down to business and I have to make the best use of this time. So some of my best workouts have been within 45 minutes. It's how you use that time that's going to be optimized. But like you even said, listen to your body. Like your body is going to talk to you, whether you need to ease off or you need to actually progress. I think that's why a lot of people hit a plateau, is their body adapts and they never really evolve with their training. They chase sometimes sweat and exhaustion over progression, right? And they that's how they judge it, but they're just kind of spinning the wheels a little bit. But you have to listen to the body, and like it will speak to you when you got that little nagging shoulder thing going on, or your knees feeling a little off, or your back thing. That's your body talking to you, and it's saying, "Hey, something's tight here, or something needs to be massaged, and we need to stretch a little bit more. So maybe we should do that." So it's very important to listen to what's going on in your body and pay attention, whether that means pull back or push forward.
yeah, it very realistically could be, a stitch in the shoulder or the chest or the quad or whatever, right? But for me this time, it was just I don't feel the same desire to go and push hard. Once I got in the gym, I'd still push hard, but the desire to go and do that was starting to wane, and I'm like, that's not right. And so I was
Mm.
just like, okay, I'm going, but I'm gonna force myself not to go hard, and I'm gonna do that for a couple weeks and just see how I feel after that. And to your point, I don't do it often enough, and I know I don't do it often enough. So that was another point. I hadn't done a deload in a long time. But I know coming out of it the other side, I'm probably going to see huge gains in strength and maybe some new PRs at 56. And that's kind of you can still do that. You can still do that at 60, right? So my goal right now is I had a goal of doing a 500-pound deadlift by 50, and I missed it because of an injury, and then I never really got back after it, and so now I'm like, I think I could do a 500-pound deadlift by 60. So that's my new goal. I got 4 years to get to a 500-pound. I'm in the low 400s right now. So, and I never do single rep anything, right? Not at my age. It's just not worth the risk. So, if I can hit something four, I do the calculator and okay, what would my 1 rep max be right now if I did a 1 rep max, right? So, but yeah, I think it's cool to think when I was 30, I was like, oh, I won't be stronger when I'm 50, but I absolutely am stronger at 50 than I was at 30. I'm stronger than I was at 25. So
Cool. Yeah.
yeah, it is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love hearing that. I love hearing people hit new personal bests at every age of their life. But like you said, listen to your body, because even with things like deadlifts, heavy squat, heavy bench press, and stuff like that, if it's starting to cause wear and tear on your body, you may need to completely remove it from the cycle. I think that a lot of times we as men have these goals in mind, and we're like, I want to hit this, and that's our ego talking versus longevity and sustainability. I don't know about you, but I want to be doing this till I'm 70, 80 years old, right? So, for me, I've taken the ego out of it. I got to a point where like, yeah, hitting that 400 squat, hitting that 350 bench press, and like, yeah, I want to get into those crazy deadlifts. I was like, I started noticing it beat my body up pretty hard. And I was like, well, if this is going to affect me from training regularly, I got to ease off this and look at what's actually sustainable.
Yeah, and for me, the shift was just not to actually try one rep maxes anymore. It's that if I don't think I'll get it comfortably three and likely get the fourth, I'm not going to try it. And if I want to get above that, well, I've got to get that same weight up 6 to 7, 8 times before I try adding more weight, and then try get that up for 3 to 4 and see how that goes and make incremental gains. I've separated my shoulder many times playing hockey and motocross and different things. So, but what I found out was, when I started working out, like seriously with a program, not, just playing hockey and football for my exercise, that after some time of being aware of the weakness in that shoulder and focusing on building it up with light weights, and now it's one of my strengths. So, you can overcome issues you've had in the past by responsibly building out a program to strengthen the joints and the muscles around that. And even what people don't realize is you densify your bones in lifting as well. So osteoporosis and things that affect people in old age is pushed off by lifting weights and increasing your bone density. There's just so many benefits. Sorry, you and I could probably go on here for 3 hours, so I guess we should we should move along a little bit. But anyways, there's a certain type of guy who's been doing the same workout for 5 years, and I think again we've kind of covered this. He's frustrated, he's not progressing. What usually is wrong here?
Yeah, the body adapts, and you have to listen to it, like you mentioned earlier. And most people never really evolve in their training. They get into a position of comfort where they just get in the habit of doing the same thing over and over and over again and really never change things up. And that can work. Like, you can stick to one routine for a long period of time and see great results, right? It oftentimes aligns with your diet and your sleep and recovery as well, right? But I think it's about looking at those numbers and seeing where you might be even falling short sometimes. Either you're under recovering, you're under eating protein, like you're saying, or you're not training with structure. That's the key thing. And that's kind of where I kind of come in, is we program a routine around your fitness level, your goals, and what you have available. We have to be realistic. So essentially, once we've created this program, we hold you accountable. So by checking in weekly, we're able to look and keep you aware and give you ownership of what you're actually doing. Are you falling behind? Are you actually moving the needle forward? And it doesn't need to always move the needle forward, but if we get stuck in a plateau week after week after week, something needs to change. And that's where real coaching actually prevails. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of coaches these days are all about making money, signing up as many clients as possible, and really neglecting whether their client actually sees results. One thing I pride myself on is being a real coach that cares about coaching. And accountability is about weekly check-ins, looking at the data, where we are. Like, it's okay to have a stressful week. It's okay to travel. It's okay to go off track. But who do you have reeling you back in when you hit those plateaus? Because you don't need to hit them. You can hit a point where you're good at where you're at, but then you get into a maintenance phase where we want to keep you there. But even then, you're bouncing back and forth. So, clients need coaching. I'm going to tell you right now, they don't need a one size cookie cutter routine. They need real coaching. They need a plan that's going to be set in their life when things are stressful, when they're traveling, when they have setbacks, and their mindset starts to waver, right? The accountability aspect isn't about pressure. It's about support and correcting the course so that you keep moving forward. That's why you have a coach, to educate you on these things and make you aware of what your body's actually doing.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about accountability, but we kind of covered it there. But something you said actually made me think of something else, and I thought maybe we should dive into it just a little bit. And I mean, I don't know how many meme coaches, coach memes there are out there in the world today, because uh, there's got to be 10 different coaches for every person alive, in the world today. And that's where I really find, and I make fun of coaches sometimes, and don't take this wrong. It's in good, in good fun, but and because this is a reality in many cases, we see this in personal training, we see this in business coaching, we see this in so many different investment coaching, all kinds of different coaches out there, right? And the difference between someone that is a cheerleader and a coach, that line has blurred a little bit. And there's so many, I think, especially in this space, there's so many cheerleaders, but they're not true accountability coaches, and they're not truly tracking progress and making sure that all elements of that plan are working for the client, because that's something that needs to be tweaked from time to time. And if you're just there cheering them on and, oh, good workout today, and it's like, well, they just pushed less weight than they did 2 weeks ago, or less reps, or you should be diving into, hey, are you feeling off? Are you like, how's the diet? What are the elements that are causing them to be a little off in the gym today? And I think that's lacking too often. So the value on what people like you bring is so great, but you also have to overcome the market impression of what a coach is at the same time.
Yeah, I think coaches have a tool belt of skills, and you need to know when to use your tools in the right situation. And sometimes you're going to make the wrong choice, right? Sometimes people need that positive reinforcement and hype up to get where they need to be. But other times, sometimes you have to challenge them, and you have to give them a little pushback to say, hey, listen, you're not doing the things that you set goals towards, and you're falling short here. But you need to know what a person's going through in their life, because if they've had a tough week and they're dealing with family stuff, work stuff, now might not be the time to tell them they're not eating properly and working out, right? So there's a time to support, and there's a time to push forward. I think a lot of times coaches get into this negative mindset of, oh, you failed because you didn't follow the plan. But how about you failed the client because you didn't look at how the plan was supposed to fit their life? That's the key, is that every client's going to have a different life. And yes, your program that you've created works, but it only works if you can adapt it to a person's life. And I think if you're going to shake a client's hand and say, hey, I'll take you on, you're also taking on all of the responsibilities of their bad habits as well. So you need to do your due diligence of knowing who you're taking on as a client, because sometimes you might have to say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't do this, because like it sounds like I might not be able to help you, but because they see that dollar figure and they say, hey, I want to make this sale, I'll take you on. And then when they fail, well, it was the client's fault, right? So I think it's important that you do your due diligence before you get that client into your database and say, hey, can I really help this person?
Yeah, and I think you and I had this discussion before we started the vlog today about holistic help that, Hyperion provides businesses and that you do for your clients as well. And I think, we identify when, okay, I'm not the right resource, or this isn't the right resource. Let's get the right resource for them. We can still be of value to them. Might not fill our pocket, but let's introduce someone that can actually help them at the stage they're in. We just want to see people be successful at the end of the day. Um,
It is a great point. Like I'll use an example. I had a woman come to me recently that was perimenopausal, and she was really concerned that I was going to be able to coach her to help her see results. She was like, have you ever worked with perimenopausal women? I've tried a lot of things, and da 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 da. And she was going off, and she seemed really concerned, and I'm very confident in that realm. I've coached, probably hundreds of women who have been at that stage in their life, but I sense the resistance to possibly me. And I can't have you come in already with this, like, can this guy even help me? I need you to have that belief and trust in what I do. So right away I was like, You know what? I have a friend who specializes in this exact industry. He specifically works with women who are perimenopausal. Go talk to him. I'm probably, I want you to be confident when you step into a relationship with a coach. So go talk to my friend here. And so that, I think that's important. Integrity in this business is very important.
Yeah, I agree. And having the right coach is so important. And not everyone is for everyone. And it can even come down just to personality and coaching styles, right? So I mean, most of us can overcome that for, 90% of the cases, but just sometimes there's not alignment. And I have a good example of that because my wife and I had trainers for a while, and my trainer was away one day, and so my wife's trainer was like, she was a young lady, and she was like, "Oh, I'll work you out today." And oh my gosh, she murdered me. Like I was dying. I almost puked. Um, and I was like, okay, if my trainer's ever not there again, I'm just walking out. I'm not letting this one. I did, she did train me maybe 3 or 4 times, but every time it was just like brutal. It was good for me because honestly, it pushed me to realize that maybe I was leaving some stuff on the table in the gym at times and I could go harder. But I could not have worked out with her for 6 months. My body would have been wrecked. So, but that she worked out with my wife for a long time and they had a really good relationship. And I think she went on me harder just because she knew I was, a testosterone guy kind of thing. I'm going to show this guy that he's not as tough as he thinks kind of thing, which was, like I say, a good reset at the time. But yeah, it's really evident that different personalities in the gym and coaches, are going to serve different people in different ways. One other thing that I wanted to dive into, before we run out of time, is I want to get into the supplement conversation because this is an area where there's an enormous amount of noise and a lot of money chasing people's hope. As a coach, what's your honest take on where supplements actually fit in and what is mostly just marketing?
Yeah, so we have to look at the actual word supplement, and it means to something that makes complete or makes an addition, right? That's what a supplement is. It's not meant to be the solution, right? And that's often what we see is the industry of supplementation sells hope and wants a get fixed quick result, right? But I think you need to actually look at where you might be deficient before looking at supplementation. And oftentimes you got to start with nutrition and exercise and being consistent. But then as you start to see deficiencies in certain area, whether it be sleep, nutrition, or different health markers, for sure supplements play a key role in helping you in that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's some that are standards that are so heavily tested and controlled. And yeah, I'll use creatine. Like
Yeah.
now it's showing cognitive benefits in certain dosages and stuff like that. And the downside or the risk of using creatine is nominal for 90% of the population. If there's some kidney issues or something, you might want to talk to your doctor before. Well, you should talk to your doctor before changing anything significant in your diet. Don't get me wrong, but creatine is one of the safest and most studied. But now we're getting into peptides, right? And that's the new rage. And in Canada, at least, it's mostly gray peptides because even though FDA has approved some, Canada is a little behind in getting some of them to approved in Canada. And I actually have an episode coming up where we're going to dive into peptides a bit, like BPC 157, CJC 1295, the recovery body composition work being done internationally. It's really a space that's generating a ton of buzz in performance and longevity circles. As someone working at the sharp end of fitness coaching, what's your take? Are peptides something your clients are asking about? And where do you see the conversation going?
Yeah, I think it's a growing interest because people want faster recovery, they want longevity. And I think the conversation will continue growing as more research starts to come out of it. But the basis is it doesn't replace discipline, training, nutrition, and lifestyle habits. They right now they have a peptide for everything, right? From weight loss to muscle growth to recovery to your skin and hair. So you have to look into it. I think the biggest thing that I would say, and I've interviewed naturopaths on this as well, is your sourcing. where are you getting it from? Because that's where I think the biggest issue is with peptides is, a lot of the things that are coming through, because some of them aren't regulated, are coming through third-party sources, a lot from China, and they haven't been fully tested. So you definitely have to be careful where you're getting it from. But there have been studies on it, and there have been a lot of real big benefits on some of these. So I think what we're going to start to see is some of them, and I know a bunch were recently passed, and more will come out. But I think like with weight loss ones, the GLP-1s and GLP-3s, there are some great benefits to it, but again, they're not a replacement for a bad diet, right? If you don't have the fundamentals, you're going to see health issues regardless of what you're doing. Same with the recovery and the injury-based peptides. Hey, if you did something to cause that injury, you don't fix what you're doing to cause the injury, it's just going to come back. So I think that you got to look at the lifestyle choices behind why you would need a peptide first, because that's gonna we'll fix it, but the problem's still gonna come back if you haven't looked at the root cause of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just talked about creatine and how well studied it is, and there's a lot of information known on creatine, and that's where the peptides fall short, right? It's new. I mean, we've seen FDA and Health Canada approve things in the past that didn't turn out safe in the long run. So until there's a historically long, history of knowledge on these, you're still, even if it's approved by a health authority, you're still taking a bit of a gamble that there's not some kind of long-term consequence of using that, right? Now, I'm not saying, you can't make the risk assessment, and if you need to lose 100 pounds, that's going to be difficult, and this will, help you reach your goals. But it's just, again, it's a tool within your tool belt that you can access. You have to use it reasonably. You have to understand the risks and be willing to take those risks if you're going to use them. And by all means, get a medical opinion and rely on your doctor to help guide you down that path. And I mean, there's a lot of naturopaths, I think, especially in BC, that also have medical training. So a naturopath with medical training is ideally someone that can help you with a lot of these decisions and choices and understanding the risks that aren't just, medicine pushing, and I'm not saying most doctors are that way at all, but there are some, right? So, anyways, it's an interesting topic that I think we'll see continued, for you especially, you'll see continued clients asking about them and asking about the shortcuts they can take, either to lose weight or to maximize muscle or to maximize strength and cognitive. There's ones that are cognitively beneficial, and hair and skin and all of that are coming out, right? So it's going to be topical for a long time. What about, pivoting a little bit, we've been talking about the physical, but what about the mental health side of this? Because I think it's underrated in the fitness conversations. Things like ashwagandha, lion's mane, magnesium, even the mood benefits of training itself, lifting weights. How much of that does factor into what you're building with your clients?
Yeah, the mental health factor or the mindset side is something that gets downplayed so much. We look at, nutrition and fitness solely from a physical standpoint, but, there's huge factors because physical health and mental health are so deeply connected, right? Training builds confidence, resilience, stress management, emotional stability, right? And many clients come to me for the body. They look in the mirror, they're uncomfortable with their body, their clothes are fitting different. And hey, if that's why you're coming to me, I'm okay with it, right? But when you start exercising and you start taking care of your body, all of a sudden the mind starts getting clearer. And that's where we're going to really root you in commitment, because you're going to feel mentally stronger. You're going to start to become a version of yourself that you possibly haven't seen in a long time. Like you mentioned yourself, right? When you had kids, You fell into this pattern of possibly, supportive eating with your partner or whatever, making quick choices. And I'll tell you right now, as long as men are having kids, I'm going to be in business. So I'm happy about that. There's always odds that I got to fix, which is great. But I think that, they come for the body, but they stay for the mental health aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't think I realized before I started lifting. Like I say, I've always been active, but just with everything I was doing with kids and myself playing sports, I didn't have time to get consistently to the gym. Once I did, man, do I notice it if I'm off, if I'm away from the gym for 2 weeks. It's like, oh, I literally, my body is like, I have to get back. And it's not, it's mental. It's what's going on upstairs that's impacted, right? And it's like clarity starts to go, and stress builds on the body if you don't give it that release kind of thing. So I totally understand that and get that. If someone's listening to this and they want to be smart about the supplements they're taking, because you can also spend a fortune, right, and chase a bunch of things. If you don't want to fall for the marketing, what's the short list that you actually would stand behind?
Yeah, so I think protein powder is super convenient for hitting that protein goal. So that's a great supplement if you don't want to eat more meat, right? Like you mentioned already, creatine is great for strength, recovery, and cognitive benefits. Everyone from your grandma should be maybe taking creatine. It's been researched back, like you said, right? And then I think the stuff for health benefits are really, really key. Magnesium, omega-3s, vitamin D, depending on your lifestyle and deficiencies. And then there's ones that I just wouldn't even suggest you waste time or money on, like the fat burners and the testosterone boosters. I would say probably like 85% of the supplements in the store are probably just marketing and gimmicks and stuff. But there are some key things that you should be taking, but I would look at where you're deficient before just jumping into them. And then there's great ones for sleep as well. I take a stack, I take my magnesium at night. I take one called GABA, L-theanine, and even ashwagandha before bed can help relax you and calm your nervous system, so you get into a really deep sleep. So like I said, there's different times, aspects that you should take certain supplements, but there's some great ones and there's some ones you shouldn't waste your money on.
Yeah, and everybody's going to be impacted differently. Magnesium is such an important one for everyone, I think. But timing on when you take it can be impactful. Like that stack you just were talking about, I've taken a lot of those too. But if I take them before bed, I'm in REM almost all night just dreaming. And so I don't fall into the deep sleep as much. And I don't know, like it's not that I have nightmares or anything, but just dreaming all the time is a little disconcerting for me. So I moved my magnesium and my ashwagandha to the morning, which means it's not just hitting me fresh, because it does go into the between the blood and mind barrier, right? So the brain barrier. So it's one of those that can really impact you. And I find better now taking magnesium and ashwagandha in the morning doesn't have the same negative impact on my sleep cycles. If you don't take any magnesium, you're likely not to have good sleep. So it's kind of something that, for me anyways, not saying everyone's lacking magnesium, but most people would be surprised if they had their blood tested that they're probably low if they're not supplementing magnesium. Again, this is something you should check with your doctor and get blood work done. But for a lot of people, they see advantageous reactions from taking magnesium. But the timing for each individual is going to be very different potentially.
Absolutely.
I want to end on something that I think is the real conversation underneath all of this, because getting in shape is partly physical, but it's also about how a man and woman sees themselves. What do you notice changes in your clients beyond just the physical results?
Yeah, I think when someone starts taking care of their health through exercise and nutrition, your confidence and your self-respect are going to go way up. I think people become more disciplined in every aspect of their life, not just fitness. They start showing up better for their family, their colleagues, and just the people around them. And like I mentioned earlier, when you start taking care of your health, a different version of you emerges, and everybody around you can notice a difference in someone who starts taking care of themselves. There's a different kind of glow about them. Their smile starts, protruding more, and you just see like that's a different man or woman right there than they were 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's, seeing the results is just so awesome. It applies in many things, but yeah, it's when you don't see your work having an impact that you start to question, are they not following the advice? Do I have the advice wrong? Do I need to tweak it? That's where you try to, but when you see it actually being effective, it's amazing. Now you mentioned earlier you had another coach you work with that deals with women specifically with perimenopausal issues. And maybe I'm wrong, so correct me if I am, but you work specifically with fathers and professionals, men who carry a lot. Is there something about the way this demographic relates to their own health that's different from other clients that you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I can really relate because I am a man, and I've let my health uh, be neglected before. I've focused on different aspects of my life. I've gone down the bad habits of restrictive diets, trying to get in shape, gaining the weight back. So I know what the busy man is dealing with. That's why I've really honed on fathers and busy professional. I've dealt with enough of them that it's like I've pinpointed the struggles that they deal with. So I said, why not focus specifically on them? I have a solution for these men, and I'm really efficient at working with them. I'm going to go at this target market because I'm very confident in working with them. It's not to say I can't work with women. I work with lots of women. I currently work with women. I have great relationship with women, but also the the goals are a little bit different. We have to give ourselves a little bit more grace. Women have a harder time than men in losing weight sometimes. They go through hormonal issues. So I think the goals become about become building a strong, confident body. And that's one thing I working with women with. But what I see with men, busy fathers and professionals, they have a tendency to allow the pressure to build up and put themselves last. And I think they provide for everyone else and they neglect their own health. And when they do improve themselves, their whole household benefits from with it. So I just really can relate with that, and I love to see a father shine in his role as a man, and really help him step into the man that he was created to be.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I think if you look at the core sector that Hyperion and yourself focus on, that's professionals and executives. And I think there's a lot of similarities when you start to look at men and women who are in those roles. They're all unique. They're not common. They're driven in a different way to start with, to be in those positions, to take the entrepreneurial journey and assume the risks, to manage the stress of being an executive within an organization. So there's probably a lot more similarities between men and women at that level than just in the general scope. So I assume that's why you can have a good impact on people who manage a lot of stress within their core employment or business operations.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, what happens a lot is when we get the husband on board, he brings his wife on board as well. And when you can get the whole household working together cohesively, where now they're making healthy dinners together, they watch the kids, and one goes and works out while the other one, is watching the kids. It becomes a beautiful thing where the support in the household and everyone's working together, and you just get a happier household. And I think it just makes it that much easier when both partners are on track together.
Yeah, my wife and I find the same when we're both, simpatico on our workouts and stuff. It's a lot easier. We're both supporting each other and driven together. It's funny because right now she's changed her workout up, and so I do a full body 3 days a week, is my standard workout, and change it up once in a while. But right now she's on the bro split. She's doing 2 and 2. So just to change things up and try it out. So there's one day of the week when we're not in the gym together, and it just feels weird. I almost feel like if I'm up here, working, and she's at the gym, I'm like, oh man, I feel like I'm missing out. So I'm thinking I gotta maybe switch up and go to the 2 and 2 upper body, lower body split, right? Just to give it just to try it for a while. It's fun. For the people or the person that's watching this who's been meaning to do something about this for a while and keeps pushing it to the next quarter, next month, after the next deal closes, what do you say to that person?
Yeah, I would say there's never a perfect time to start. And the more that you delay, the discomfort of change is just going to get greater and greater. Your health impacts your energy, your leadership, your marriage, your parenting, and your future. So by prioritizing it, it doesn't need to conflict with your career or your family. They can be cohesive. But I do think it does take some help sometimes. It does take some strategizing, some accountability, and helping build these habits in your life so that they are sustainable. There's so many tactics out there to get in shape. I think we need to focus on long-term habits that are going to keep you healthy so that you can have a long life with your family. So the work that you're doing now to provide for your family, you can enjoy it in your old age.
Yeah, and this is exactly the kind of conversation I wanted to have with you. It's a departure from mind at the table, which is what we usually do. This is body at the table, and it was something that was actually missing from Hyperion and from the vlogs I was doing. So I'm so happy we could do it today. You're just straightforward, no gimmicks, just the real framework of what actually works. I think every professional watching this is going to find something that motivates them or they can act on today. So if you're out there and you're ready to stop experimenting and start building something that actually lasts, reach out to us. And if the business side of your life needs the same kind of focus strategy that Ryan brings to the physical side, that's what we do at Hyperion Business Solutions. So let's talk.
I love that. I appreciate the opportunity in this conversation. And, I love that we've really highlighted that health doesn't need to be an obsession, but it's really just about becoming the man that you were called to be. If anybody out there does need help, they can reach out to me at lifestyletransformations.ca. My Instagram is coached by RD. I post a lot of fitness related content on there as well. But also reach out to Hyperion and you might see some collaborations from the both of us in the future as well.
Yeah, if you do happen to miss that, those ways to connect with Ryan, just reach out to us. We'll put you in touch with him. Not a problem. So follow the page, share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the gap between where you are and where you want to be is probably smaller than you think. It just needs a system. Next episode coming soon. Reach out anytime. We love hearing from you.